unsustainable levels of public debt, with some vulnerable countries' debt to GDP ratio more than 100%. So how can we promote real economic recovery of developing countries while alleviating the sovereign debt burden? This is what we're going to discuss in this session: sovereign debt for nature and climate investment. I'm delighted to introduce our distinguished moderator, Mr. Jean-Paul Adam, Rector and former Minister of Health, Finance, Trade and Blue Economy Foreign Affairs in Seychelles. Our excellencies on the panel: Her Excellency Dr. Rania Mossouk, Egypt Minister of International Cooperation; His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Maid, Egypt Minister of Finance. We have Mr. Bo Lee, Deputy Managing Director, IMF. We have Mr. Richard Kozol-Wright, Director of the Globalization and Development Strategies Divisions, IMPAD. We have Dr. Boutros Klinik, CEO of Syria Chartered Middle East. And we have Mr. Pang Afri, Minister of Finance, Ghana. And the session will start. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon once again to your excellencies, ministers, and all participants. We have heard how critical addressing debt will be in the context of investing in climate resilience. Low-income countries are at particular risk for debt distress, with 60% of low-income countries at that risk in 2021, and in particular, there are 23 African countries at high risk of debt distress this year. This is coupled with a high cost of climate change on African economies, expected to be on average 5% of GDP by 2030, but in many cases rising to in excess of 10% of GDP. African countries are also sometimes spending up to 9% of their budgets in responding to climate-related disasters. So being able to address the issue of debt in the context of climate resilience is one of the key solutions that we are looking for at COP27. And in this panel, we'll be looking at the opportunities for the refinancing of debt through debt for climate investment swaps as a means of increasing fiscal space, but also to alter the fundamental risk dynamics associated with investing through debt instruments in climate. It's also about building a new environment for green finance debt, linking debt more closely to key performance indicators that are aligned with climate resilience, and also how we can support the understanding of the importance of addressing debt issues in the context of a sustainable debt initiative. I'm delighted to welcome all our panelists who have a lot of experience in addressing these issues. And I would like to go first to His Excellency Minister Mohammed Maid. And we would like to hear from you, Your Excellency Minister, based on the priorities that were identified in the pre-COP27 ministerial meeting which was held in Cairo. How can debt swaps be used as a tool to invest, or used as a tool to increase climate, nature, resilient investment?
Thank you very much, and I'm with you, Sharm Sheikh, and let me start by saying we have to say why we are stressing for debt swap for climate. Look at how much debt countries have now over the last 3 years only, between 2019 and 2022. You'll find that on average is between 33 to 35% increase on our debt. Even countries on our income, they are even worse. It's around 40% plus increase in their debt. And if we look even debt service for the foreign or the external part in the structure of the debt of this country, we will see that the average serving cost has jumped in the last 3 years from 5% to more than 16% of their revenue going to just serving the foreign part in their debt. So, with all what's going on this world, with regard to high inflation, high cost of financing, high cost of food, energy, and with war in Europe, we believe that many countries are vulnerable to the issue of debt sustainability. And it will not harm only those of debtors. It will harm also the creditors, because they will not be able to get their money back if these countries are not able to pay back their money. So what we are saying now, that climate change has become a threat for all humankind on this earth. Let us use the debt swap, or let us start by sovereign debt, not to say it absolute debt swap. Let us start with sovereign debt, okay, for sustainability, for nature, for climate. And when we say that, it's not a new idea. It's an idea which has been used before, but for development project and developmental purposes. What we are saying now, let us use it, but for climate change purpose. Let us convince those creditors, particularly countries, and I believe that it happened. It happened with the United States, with the peace, when they offered them a loan to buy back their, at a very low cost, to buy back their debt and to achieve a specific climate objective. So let us use this method and stress it that it will benefit all of us, creditors, debtors, climate change objectives, and ensure that but instead of using our money to pay back I'm not talking about Egypt, I'm talking about all developing countries, to use it for climate change objectives, to ensure that we will be able to finance the project. So this will be in return for debt and debt service to achieve the climate change objectives.
Thank you, Minister. Precisely, we face an emergency and we need emergency measures. And this can be done in a way which is even in line with our market expectations. But let me go now to Minister Rania Al-Rashad. And if I could ask you, Minister, what are Egypt's expectations in being able to do future debt climate investment swaps?
Thank you very much, Jean-Paul. And as Mr. Mike mentioned, Dr. Mike mentioned, there is a common agenda now across creditors and debtors. So the topic or the objective of climate action is one that brings to financing tools that can be used to accelerate climate action. And one of them, as you are an expert on this, Jean-Paul, and have seen in action, is the concept of debt swaps. Debt swaps are important, and let me shed light on Egypt's experience with debt swaps. We have had a debt swap with Italy since 2001, and with Germany since 2015. And why do I mention this? I mention it because the governance is extremely important. In deciding on the projects that go into the debt swap programs, it's a national country debt. It's a project that is in the country's strategy, and it is collectively agreed to. So this is extremely important. We know today, in the debates that have happened in the past several months, everybody's talking about how can we leverage on debt swaps, how can we have geopolitics, we're talking about bundling with debt swaps so that the private sector can come in. But what we need as a basis is the infrastructure, the governance, where the debtor and the creditor both agree. So this has to be very transparent, and Egypt has experience in this. The amount of projects we've done under debt swaps are many. And because they are old debts, I mean, the program started years ago, climate was not at the heart of discussion. But when we did an analysis, we find that many of them were on energy efficiency, many were related to people in protected areas, community development, so they had mitigation as well as adaptation features. So in the new debt swaps that we will have, we will make sure that it is more explicit when it comes to climate. You asked what is our expectations. We have launched the Egypt's country platform for the access to water, food, and energy, the WAFI program. It is derived from Egypt's 2050 climate country strategy, and also each project is linked to Egypt's nationally determined contributions. This platform is a platform that mobilizes finance from including grants, concessional, technical advisory, debt swaps, and all of this to catalyze the private sector. So before the end of the COP, we will announce how much of the WAFI program so far will also have an element of debt swaps, and this is extremely important. We wanted to feature, along the platform, to feature all the innovative tools that we have been collectively discussing since Glasgow. From Glasgow to Sharm el-Sheikh, we want Egypt's country platform for the WAFI program to be an example how a country can use its country strategy, its very identified projects, and its partnership with the international community to be able to implement and accelerate action, including the networks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister. And we congratulate both you and Minister Maït on Egypt's leadership in undertaking these type of operations. And I think key message, linking debt to your national priorities, building from your goals and your programs and strategies and NDCs, and also linking them to international and climate-aligned goals. And we have to have climate in both the national aspect and in the multilateral aspect. I have the pleasure to move to Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. And Minister, you have been renowned for your active in addressing sustainable development issues, and particularly the financing. So from your perspective, what are the priorities for emerging vulnerable economies in debt issuances or debt refinancing? And please feel free to give us examples from Ghana and from Africa.
Thank you very much. I think the problem is loan, and we know we have enough financial capacity to solve any of our crises. The question then becomes whether we feel deeply enough about it to create a Marshall Plan of some sort in which the world is speaking the same language. But that's what we have to come to terms with. There's a essential moment of psychological crisis that for us in the vulnerable countries in Africa, as Mr. Buchanan said, it's very clear that we are essentially having, in the first instance, that is very are we willing to look at before it gets into insolvency and what is then the responsibility? So, and the nature of the rural architecture also makes it difficult for countries in Africa, etc., to climb out of. So how are we going to upend that so that the system models that we think about as being the way capital markets and money markets work is developed? And where then becomes the issue of justice and sustainability. Because currently the nations that are bearing the brunt of the crisis are the least possible and are least equipped with the current structure to solve it. But in here there is an opportunity for us to rally. I mean, in listening to comments, you can see the G funds or SMI all acknowledging that the resources are there. The question is whether these vulnerable countries and African countries can put together the same old documents to be able to then go to the green funds. And that becomes also an element. We need support to be able to structure that. So the vulnerable countries, for example, are coming out with these country prosperity plans, which seems to find a way to get climate investments and to get out of where we are from. So yes, it is a moment in which we must all honestly sit up and understand that it is in our self-interest to be able to resolve this problem we can resolve. Because the truth of the matter is that if Africa and the vulnerable countries do not participate in 1.5 degrees centigrade, it will still be within the measures that are expected. So how then do you have the responsibility of doing more towards that to save those individuals? So Jean-Paul, I think it's a fundamental appreciation of that we find the resources to be able to reduce the cost of living these greenhouses and in Egypt at a particular difficult time getting to these greenhouses because of course putting them together before they also slap an additional premium on it because of so there's a lot to do. I think we have the power to do it, and whether we want to have companies, philanthropists, and private sector when we come into a certain partnership which says that these vulnerable countries, African countries, if we don't participate in resolving this issue, we ourselves, the comfort of what we take for granted, would be in jeopardy, and therefore we must make a decision.
Thank you very much. And you highlighted that justice and sustainability are indivisible. And that includes now the type of debt instruments that we issue where we need to have that link. And we need to make those instruments affordable, particularly for the most vulnerable countries who may lack capacity to develop these instruments. I'd now like to move to Mr. Boli, Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund. And we have heard the IMF recently talk about the potential debt swaps they may have in terms of meeting some of the concerns. But can I ask, how concerned is the IMF by the rise in debt in emerging economies? What does this mean in relation to our ability to meet climate goals?
Thank you. Let me start by saying that we are concerned about rising debt and also reduce the fiscal space of many of our low-income countries and developing countries. As you have mentioned, more than 60% of low-income countries are already close to debt distress. More than 20 emerging market and frontier market, their debt are traded at distress level right now. Last year there were only 10 such countries. So we doubled the number of countries in the emerging market space in terms of with distress debt levels. So when we have very high debt, we're going to see a lot of challenges for our members, especially our developing and low-income country members. That means higher costs to service debt. That also means crowding out priority spending. It also means the rising interest rate. It also means a tougher refinancing condition for many developing countries. So what does this mean for climate goals? Let me briefly make 3 observations. The first observation is that debt and climate are closely linked. Climate crisis is exacerbating debt vulnerabilities of many developing countries. Because of the natural disaster, because of the climate crisis, many developing countries need to rebuild, need to reconstruct. They also need to spend their precious fiscal resources to support resilience building. All this costs money, and that further exacerbates their debt is also constraining the options available for developing countries in terms of building climate resilience. So it is not surprising that countries with high climate risk are also typically countries with high fiscal risk. So this two go hand in hand. So my second observation is that given this challenging situation for many developing countries, what can we do? I think we need to think both from the domestic side and also from the international side. From the domestic side, developing countries need to find ways to mobilize more fiscal resources to create more fiscal space to build climate resilience. And also for some countries with capacity, they should build a domestic capital market to mobilize domestic savings to support climate resilience building. But of course, many developing countries, especially low-income countries, their capacity is very limited. That's why we also need international cooperation, we need international support. Given the high level of debt, we need more grants. We need more concessional financing. We also need more equity investment. Because developing countries, they already have too much debt. We need more equity financing. So that's my second observation. My last observation is that IMF is working closely with our members in dealing with climate risk, at the same time to manage fiscal risk. We do this through our policy advice, through our regular surveillance. We are incorporating climate risk in our debt sustainability analysis to help our members to better manage their debt, to better manage their fiscal position. In our capacity development, we also try to help our members to develop a healthy public financial management system to incorporate climate risk, and also at the same time to manage fiscal risk. In addition, we have launched a new instrument, the first long-term facility in the history of IMF, the Resilience and Sustainability Trust, a 20-year loan with 10-year grace period. And this loan are trying to help our developing members to deal with the long-term challenge of climate change. So we are not only lending money to these countries to help them create fiscal space to deal with climate risk, we are also helping the country to put together a reform program so that they can create an enabling environment to attract other public and private investment in the fight against climate change. I stop here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bodhi. I think everyone has appreciated that the IMF is moving decisively towards, as you said, making sure that that link between the fiscal risk and the climate risk is incorporated in instruments. We need to look at ways we can do this systematically within debt instruments across the world. I'd now like to move to Mr. Richard Kozul-Wright. So Richard, based on your experience, how effective are existing debt instruments in delivering climate action? What needs to change?
Thanks, Jean-Paul. Let me begin just by congratulating the Department Presidency for launching their Sustainable Debt Coalition initiative.
I think you might need to put your mic a little bit closer.
Okay, sorry. I think everyone realizes that we can no longer discuss climate stress independently of debt distress, and of course, vice versa, debt distress can no longer be talked about independently of climate distress. Our starting point, at least in our debt, is that developing countries are operating an international financial system which is creditor friendly, and when it comes to debt relief, has a history of delivering too little, too late. We need fresh thinking, we need new initiatives to deal with the scale of the debt challenge and to link it to the climate challenge. I think the coalition is a step in the right direction in that context. There was a report, I think, also released by the COP presidency this week, and the London School of Economics, on the scaling up of climate finance and what we need to do. And the estimate from the report is that developing countries need something like $1.3 trillion per year to deal with the climate problem. That excludes China. That's developing countries excluding China. But when you look at when you go into the weeds of that analysis, something like $500 billion a year comes from developing countries mobilizing domestic resources to achieve that kind of goal. Now, the work that we've done in UNCTAD, our 2019 Trade and Development Report, tells us that for most developing countries, the scale of debt that they have already accumulated before COVID hit, before new climate shocks, before the increase of interest rates that we've seen in the last few months and the threat of a global recession, and we have a real serious threat of a global recession in 2023, even before those events took place, scaling up resources domestically at that level was a huge ask for most developing countries, given the burden of debt that they currently operate under. And so we need to deal with this huge burden of debt. And I think debt swaps, in answer to your question, John Ball, have to be part of the innovative architecture that is needed. But I think we have to be realistic too about debt swaps. Debt swaps are an instrument that has been around for something like 40 years. It's not a new instrument. And over the last 40 years, there's been about 140 examples of debt swaps that have been developed at one time or another. And the total value of those is $2.6 billion. And so the opportunities for scaling up, I think, are there, but we need something much more than using debt swaps if we're going to meet the challenge. There's a very good working paper by Bowley's colleagues on the value of debt swaps, and it's a good starting point for this discussion, I think. They show that where debt is already sustainable, debt swaps can be a very useful tool for releasing more resources. But where debt is unsustainable, we need to talk about debt relief, we need to talk about debt restructuring, and in many cases we need to talk about debt cancellation. And we need a system that can do all of these things, I think, or not just debt swaps, all of these ways of alleviating the burden of debt. And I think Ken's point was right. We need a kind of Marshall Plan to be able to do that. And I guess our worry in UNCTAD is that we do not yet have a multilateral system that can deliver a 21st century Marshall Plan in the way that the United States helped Europe get back on its feet 75 years ago by delivering a Marshall Plan back then.
Thank you very much, Richard. We need a creditor-friendly plan. I think, a debtor-friendly plan, which really recognizes the needs of particularly vulnerable countries. And we'll move on to Dr. Boutros, I think. And I would like to ask you, Dr. Boutros, from the private sector perspective, what is really the role of the private sector in aligning debt to climate goals? And do you see a role for debt swaps from that perspective?
Thank you, Jean-Paul, and good afternoon, everyone. Your Excellencies, delighted to share this panel with you.
So that's my second keyword, scale. The third keyword is incentive. In order to scale up, we need to provide proper incentive to lenders and also to borrowers. For example, de-risking. If we can provide guarantee or insurance to some of the bond issues, it create incentive for lenders to agree to buy tech bonds. For example, the deal by Seychelles, there was a partial guarantee from World Bank. That's an example of de-risking. Another example of incentive is carbon credit. If we have marketable carbon credit, that will also increase the incentive for lenders to participate. How about incentive for the borrower to perform? We can think about performance-linked instruments, outcome contingent instruments that could provide incentive for the borrower to perform. So we need incentives. If we have these three, if we have the proper condition, if we have the scale, and if we have the proper incentive, we think debt swaps can be an innovative and useful instrument. And in this regard, IMF can also help. We can incorporate this transaction into our debt sustainability analysis. We can tell whether a particular transaction can result in sustainable debt for a particular country. And also our lending, our balance of payment lending to the country can be used for debt buyback. So we will be very happy to work with our members, particularly those members
That's fantastic.
that are suitable for such transactions. We will help. Thank you.
That's fantastic, thank you. I think we've heard very clearly from the IMF on this subject. And I'd now like to go very quickly to our last two panelists. To Richard, if you can tell us from your perspective, what role would, so how can we use key performance indicators in relation to debt issuances in the global finance architecture? And then straight after to Dr. Boutros, how can the private sector amplify the opportunity for sustainable debt refinancing and new debt issuances? So if I can ask each of you a minute and a half, sorry.
Very quickly, changing behavior, I think, is a key element in this story. We were very encouraged in the document of the coalition. They recognized the value of UNCTAD's principles of responsible lending and borrowing, which we devised a number of years ago with the help of other international agencies and the private sector. I think they provide a very useful way for thinking about the kind of behavior from both the creditor and the debtor side that can lead to more sustainable habits. It's soft law, and there are limits to soft law, and I think it's a good starting point for thinking about some of these behavioral changes.
Well, thanks, Jean-Paul. From my end, the last comment, I think the private sector is acutely aware of the challenges, but also the opportunities that exist in this, in the sustainable debt environment, etc. So they are there. They are there. The frameworks are there. We talk to our investors. 85% of them are keen to invest in sustainable debt instruments or instruments related to the SDGs. If we talk about and 42% of them are keen to basically put around 15% of their assets under management into the sustainable products if the right frameworks are there. Now, I will have to mention that it is very important. Corruption is an issue that gets raised quite a bit. Government interference in the wrong way does get raised as well quite a bit. So with that, I think we are there. Financial institutions are pushing very hard to get us there as fast as we can, and it just requires the collaboration and cooperation among the different stakeholders to make things happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to just now do a very brief summary and thank our panelists. I think firstly it's been very clear in the current emergency, debt swaps are part of the solution. Not the solution on their own, but part of the solution. New liquidity, fiscal space for investing in climate resilience. Secondly, we need to upscale. We need to have a unified approach in simplification And we need to also bring multiple creditors at the same time and debtors together. So, and the Sustainable Debt Coalition is a way to bring all of these partners together around an agreed set of principles to really align debt issuances with the need for climate resilience. I would like to warmly applaud all of our partners again. I think we've made real headway in identifying concrete actions for sustainable climate investment. Merci beaucoup. Shukran.